Stephen Bedard, and I want to talk to you today about theological education. What kind of theological degree should you get if that's something that you're interested in? Well, you know what? That's a great question. I'm glad that you're asking that. And it really depends. It depends on a number of things. One, it depends on what your ultimate goal is. Why are you seeking a theological degree? And also, what stage of life are you in? Those are some of the things that we need to take into account. So one way for you to go in terms of theological education is to do an undergrad degree. You can go to a Bible college or a Christian university and take an undergrad. And that might be in terms of a Bible college, that could be a Bachelor of Theology. It could also be a Bachelor of Religious Education, and then some Christian universities have a Bachelor of Arts in terms of biblical studies or religious studies or something along those lines. And both of those are absolutely great options. In fact, I taught for a number of years at a Bible college, Emmanuel Bible College. Shout out to them, and you can check them out at emmanuelbiblecollege.ca. And they had some great programs in terms of BTH and BRE, and the students did fantastic. We had undergrads from right from high school to adults who are looking to start a second career, and it was a great experience. I also taught at Tyndale University. It was Tyndale University College back then. And they have undergrad degrees in numerous programs, but you can also take biblical studies and that type of thing as well. And so if you want to check that out, that's tyndale.ca. So those are some options, and they are absolutely great. And I would encourage you to consider that if you have not taken any university or college yet, and you're just coming out of high school. That definitely is something for you to consider. However, in my own experience, I had planned originally to go to a Bible college and to take a Bachelor of Theology, but I already had an undergrad degree. I had a Bachelor of Business Administration. And so I ended up deciding to go to seminary instead. And seminaries provide theological education at the graduate level. So you are taking mostly master's degrees. They do have doctorate degrees, many of them as well. And so I ended up going with the Master of Divinity degree. And I had to decide between that and the Master of Theological Studies degree, both of which are very good. But the Master of Divinity degree really is the basic degree for someone to become a pastor. Now, when I said that I was planning on going to Bible college, at that point, I was in a denomination where most of the pastors had Bible college degrees. The most that they would have would be a BTH. However, I ended up, during my time at seminary, switching denominations. And that denomination that I currently am in is one that highly recommends people have a Master of Divinity degree. Now, there are some people with undergrad degrees who are ordained, some who have MTSs, but the MDiv really is the one that they're looking for, because it provides the widest spectrum of courses. It's a 3-year program compared to the MTS, which is 2 years. You ended up having more experience through field education in the sense of getting some ministry experience in a local church. So I actually highly recommend the MDiv degree if you are considering pastoral ministry in any way. Even if it's a consideration, you're not quite sure if you're going to do that or not, really the MDiv will open up more doors than an MTS. Now, an MTS is great if you're just trying to figure out what you want to do. You want to learn more about the Bible, more about theology. You want to be a more educated layperson. Definitely the MTS is an excellent degree, and very often you can become a pastor in a local church with an MTS. it does happen a lot. I know a number of people who have done that. So it is an option. It's 2 years, and usually you don't have to take near as much field education, and so you can focus on the studies. A lot of MTS programs, you can focus on a specific stream. So you're interested in New Testament or theology or history or Christian ministry or something like that. You can often, depending on the school, get a focus on there. And so those are the two main ones in terms of pastoral ministry. Some other people will end up taking either a Master of Theology or a Master of Arts. And the Master of Theology is sometimes as a MTH or sometimes as a THM, same degree. And the MA, which may be focused on a certain area of either theology or biblical studies. It can also be done in Christian ministry as well. Those are more academic degrees, and so they are preparing you for further doctoral education, or they may even just be giving you that academic experience you want. If you want to be a researcher for writing, you can use an MA or an MTH for teaching, often in Bible colleges, and it's through that I've been able to do that. So just in case you're wondering, in terms of my own experience, I do have an undergrad in a secular degree, and I also have an MDiv, the Master of Divinity. I have a Master of Theology and a Master of Arts. Now, I didn't need all of those things. All I needed was the MDiv in terms of being a pastor, but I was interested in the academic side, and I had some opportunities to take these degrees. And those MA and MTH degrees will include a thesis. So if you're not interested in a thesis, don't do that. Now, you can do a thesis in an MDiv and an MTS. Those are options, but they are not required. So those are some of the things for you to keep in mind. I'm not going to go into the information about doctoral degrees because I do that in another video, in the one that we looked at about whether you should get a doctor of ministry or a PhD. So see that video if that's what you're interested in. But there is one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is there is a difference between studying theology, and when I say theology here, I'm going to use it in the widest term, in the sense of studying biblical studies or history or whatever from a Christian perspective. There's a difference between that and religious studies. You will find most universities will have some kind of religious studies program that might include an undergrad. It might include graduate programs as well. And that is not meant for preparing you for ministry. In fact, it's not done from a Christian perspective at all. There are no assumptions in the sense of who Jesus is, if there's a God, the truth of the Bible, or anything like that. It is really looking at the Bible in the way a classicist might look at the Iliad. That's really the way religious studies often works. That's not to say that it's bad to do that. I took a number of religious studies courses for my MTH program. It just worked out that as I was doing that, they had some courses that I was very interested in and some teachers that I wanted to study under. So even though I was getting my degree through the Divinity College part of the university, I ended up taking some courses through the religious studies department. And it was a good experience, but I had a number of times in which it was a little bit uncomfortable because the teachers were making that assumption that the Bible really isn't that accurate, or that God isn't real. You're definitely discounting any possibility of the supernatural. All of those things happen. But it was a good experience. So you just have to be aware of that. If you're going to take religious studies courses in a secular university, just don't go into it with the assumption that you're going to start in prayer and you're going to have a time of worship and you're going to enjoy Christian fellowship. There probably will be some Christians in the class, but they're going to be people of other religions and atheists as well. And so that's something for you to take into account. So all of these things, you really have to think about where you're at. So if you are 60 years old, maybe you don't want to start with a undergrad. You can take a graduate degree, and oftentimes, even if you don't have an undergrad, there are ways for you to come in as a mature student. You might have to take some courses to prove yourself, but there are opportunities for you to do that. But if you have an undergrad degree as well, yes, you can do a theological undergrad as a second degree, or you can do a graduate degree. And I would encourage that if you have the opportunity. If you got lots of time, lots of money, you want to do Bible college first, then go to seminary, I think that's fantastic. Go and do that. But also be aware, what are you trying to do? If you're seeking to be a pastor, or if it's even a consideration, find out from your denominational leaders what are the expectations. So don't spend a lot of time getting a Bible college degree if they're going to require a seminary degree. You have to know what the requirements are. If you are planning on having an academic degree or an academic career, you want to teach in a university or a seminary or a Bible college, find out what the degrees are that are necessary for that. So most often, you wouldn't be able to teach in a Bible college with just a Master Divinity degree, but you probably would be able to with an MA or an MTH. Those are some of the things that you have to think about. And of course, if you're looking at teaching, you definitely should be considering doctoral programs as well. But again, that's in that other video. I hope that helps. I encourage you to check out my website at stephenjbedard.com and also consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you, and God bless.